Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be talking about a wonderful band by the name of The Call. Now, the band burst on the scene in 1982 with the release of their debut album, and that is how I got introduced to them. I always like to open these shows and tell you how I got into the band, and that's because I was up at the record store on Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles, and I was flipping through the bins, and I saw this album by The Call. Now, it was cheap. It was like 99 cents or something, but it had just come out. It was a promo. You know, they sold promos there all the time. And I bought, you know, if you've watched any of my videos in the past, during that period, if the band's name started with the, then I bought it. Just, you know, unheard, so I could listen to it. And for 99 cents or whatever it was, I mean, that's how I got introduced to a lot of bands at that time, by the way. But I bought this album by The Call. Had never even seen it on the shelves in the record stores, so I believe I probably bought it within a week or two of its release. Took it home, put the needle on it, and I'll tell you, you know, first, you know, I was kind of expecting maybe power pop or new wavy or whatever, but what I got was something a little far more serious, straightforward, very intelligent, very deep, also moody, not dark, but moody. Underneath this music, there was something happening. There was a maturity beyond any band at that time. You know, most bands were speaking about a love and tra-la-la, you know, which I love. But this band was a little bit, you know, lyrically had more depth to them. And that first album that I'm talking about was just called The Call. I remember, you know, the first song, I'm going, oh, that's pretty good. The second song, There's a Heart Here. That's the one that sold me. And I would make mixtapes with that song on it. It's fantastic. I mean, the band was Michael Bean at that point on guitar and lead vocals. There was also Tom Ferrier on guitar. There was Scott Music on drums. There was Greg Freeman on bass. And also there was like a surprise appearance on the album by Garth Hudson. At least I think he's on that first album. But Garth Hudson from the band played keyboards on the album. I don't think the whole album, but the album was produced by Hugh Padgham. You know, that same year he produced Split Enz Time and Tide. He produced XTC's English Settlement. So, you know, it's a multi-layered emotional album. I thought it was fantastic. And sadly, the album is not available on CD. So the following year, the band puts out an album. It's self-produced. And that album was called Modern Romans, 1983. They actually scored a pretty decent-sized hit off the album with a song called The Walls Came Down. And this album was far more political than the first album. But that passion, I mean, this is the thing about The Call. Great songs, but there was so much passion boiling, just bursting from the soul of Michael Bean. Just an incredible frontman, great songwriter. I mean, players like, you know, Tom Ferrier, Scott Music. I mean, these guys are just great players. The album was passionate and just hook-laden, and, you know, the songs were kind of different. And there's a lot of memorable tracks on the album, but it's not on CD. So now we move on to the third album called Seen Beyond Dreams. Came out in 1984. There was a stylistic change. Now, first off, bassist Greg Freeman was out. Joe Reed, I believe, was on bass. I think I saw him play with Code Blue. He was in that band as well. And Jim Goodwin was on keyboards. Now, Jim is also known for being a member of Gleaming Spires and Sparks during that 80s period. That whole, you know, Womp That Sucker, Angst in My Pants, Sparks in Outer Space. He was the keyboard player on that, as well as being the keyboard player for The Call. Fantastic album. The Seen Beyond Dreams, more keyboards in it, even more moody. Some of the songs were like longer, and just an incredible showing by a great band that continued to get better and better with each album, and they continue to express themselves in like new and exciting ways. Really absolutely wonderful. And that album is not on CD, but I can tell you that there is The Walls Came Down, the best of the Mercury years by The Call. This features tracks from all three albums that I just talked about. Just an incredible selection of songs. Really amazing. I mean, I'm surprised the label hasn't put out those first three albums. If you're a collector of vinyl, please pick those up when you find them, because they're definitely worth your time. But if you are like me and you buy CDs, this will have to suffice until somebody does the smart thing and puts those out on CD. Now, the band seemingly disappeared for a few years, but they returned with a new record deal on Elektra and the album Reconciled. This was their most commercial album. I believe it probably was their best-selling album. One of their most popular songs is Everywhere I Go, and that's on that album as well. But it's filled with wonderful tracks. It's the same band, but they're again, they're streamlining and ultimately changing their sound, and it's just fantastic album. It's not power pop. If you thought The Call, just by the band's name, was either power pop or post punk or new wave, it sure little bits of that stuff enters into the music, but there's something wholly unique. And like I said, it's that fire that burns behind these songs. These guys playing together, great chemistry and great music. Now, this album, believe it or not, it features Peter Gabriel, Jim Kerr from Simple Minds, of course, Garth Hudson. He'd been on there, and Robbie Robertson's on there. And really a wonderful, wonderful album, Reconciled. This, I believe, like I said, is the band's best-selling album. In 1987, the band returned with Into the Woods. This is a wonderful album, but it's a little bit darker than Reconciled. Well, Reconciled, it wasn't bright like Happy Tra-La-La. It was a little bit more commercial. This was sort of dipping back into, that deep fire, that passion. And the songs are amazing, but it's more emotional, a lot more depth to it. Definitely an album that you should check out. The most popular song in that album is called I Don't Wanna, and another fine album by The Call. Well, they left Elektra Records, but they returned 2 years later in 1989 with Let the Day Begin, which is a wonderful album. It's full of different moods, different passions. Like I said, there's still political, but there's also, very personal, emotional songs. And of course, the song Let the Day Begin is another popular song by The Call. I think that was used in like Al Gore's campaign or something, but they didn't write it for Al Gore. But it's just a great Call song that got adapted into somebody's campaign somewhere down the line. Another fine, fine album, one that people should probably know. Like Reconciled, this is probably their most well-known album. Definitely one to check out. And by the way, by this time, Michael Biehn had moved over to playing bass. I think Reconciled was the first album where he was actually the bassist, because he was playing guitar on the first 3 albums. And then from Reconciled onward, he became the bassist. Now, after 1989's Let the Day Begin, they released Red Moon in 1990. This has lots of wonderful songs. One of my favorite Call songs is on this. It's a song called Family, and it's really, really wonderful. Again, songs are honest and they're straightforward and passionate. Passion. I love bands that have a whole lot of passion and can write songs based around that passion. But that seemed to be it for The Call. That was 1990. It took another 4 years, but Michael Biehn released a solo album called On the Verge of a Nervous Breakthrough, and that actually came out on Warner Brothers. And I have to admit that some of this album is like, typical standard, kind of blues chord progressions and, rock songs. But there are some songs on here that defy explanation. There's a song on here called She, unlike anything you're ever going to hear, but it's so filled with this gorgeous melody and just for that song alone, it's worth buying. On the Verge of a Nervous Breakthrough, solo album by Michael Biehn. Now, I'm not saying the album's bad, but when you're used to, songs with great hooks and stuff, you're still getting the depth and the passion, but it's more kind of straightforward. And, that might have been a label decision, but if it was an album filled with songs like She, it's an upbeat song, but it's got the most beautiful melody, the most beautiful vocal delivery from Michael Biehn. It's absolutely fantastic and wonderful. In 1996, out comes The Best of The Call. And this actually features 2 new songs by the band. And I believe they're re-recordings of songs that he recorded on his solo album. This is a nice introduction to them, but it's also something that a fan needs because it has a couple new recordings on it. So The Best of The Call, that came out in 1996. In 1997, The Call did return with a brand new album called To Heaven and Back. Another great collection of songs. This is an independent label, and one of their greatest tracks is on here, Soaring Bird. In fact, it's right up there with me with She as one of Michael Biehn's finest performances, vocally, and the music is incredible. And you definitely need to track this down if you're a Call fan. Definitely worth your time. And I believe that the Call actually broke up in the year 2000, and any chances of a reunion were dashed when Michael Biehn passed away in 2010. Now, the rest of the band did get back together for a live performance as a tribute to Michael Biehn. I believe it happened in 2013. They did a series of shows, and taking Michael Biehn's place was his son, Robert Levin Biehn, who happens to be one of the members of Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. So you're getting the original members of The Call and Robert Levin Bean, and they're performing a lot of The Call's best tracks. Now, it's a live album. You know how I feel about live albums, but I definitely wanted to talk about it because it's a very special album, a tribute to Michael Bean. And there's one more release I want to talk about. It's called Collected, and it came out in 2019. It's actually a 3 CD set. Now, when I first heard about this, I was thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to collect the 3 original albums on CD and maybe add bonus tracks, whatever. Not really. What it is basically a best of, but it's really great. So for fans, there's like rarities on here, some, rare live stuff and a couple alternate mixes and things like that. But it's also perfect for a newbie because it features tracks throughout their career from the self-titled album to the album to Heaven and Back. Plus, it's got a couple songs that were on soundtracks. It's really a wonderful collection. And of course, they kind of confused the issue by using the same picture that was on the Mercury Years album. But still, it's fantastic. You'll know the difference because it's called Collected, and it has 3 CDs. And it has most every song that I mentioned, plus a whole lot more. Definitely a band to check out. But I'm not going to make you wait to hear The Call. Right now, I've got a medley featuring snippets of songs from The Call's career. I put these in kind of random order, just special little highlights. So it's not chronological, but I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side.
Here's to you, my little loves, with blessings from above, now let the day begin. Here's to you, my little loves, with blessings from above, now let the day begin, let the day begin. There's a heart here, oh, there's a heart here. You're stepping on my heart here, there's a heart here, exposed, paraded, put on display. May I think of you everywhere I go. I think of you everywhere I go. I look for you everywhere I go. I must have you. Thoughts of peace and love fall softly and out of silence. We're all in search of soaring bird. To the desperate young, turn a blind eye. To the old and lonely, turn a blind eye. To our inhumanity, to our death-dealing vanity. Oh, I still believe. La, 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 la. I saw you in a clear light, unspeakable in words. I pretend I did not know you. I pretend I never heard of the sadness only parents feel when innocence is gone. To load this cruel creation that I walk upon. I ain't gonna watch your every move. I ain't gonna dog your every step. I ain't here to shape your every move. I ain't here to keep your secrets kept. Oh, but if I held you in my arms, if I could squeeze you till we cry, I don't wanna lose this love I feel. I don't wanna lose. You were looking but you could not see. You were listening but you could not hear. Did you try to get away from me, to get away from you, to get away from here? So have you fallen from your upper berth? Oh, why? It makes you wonder, don't it? Say you run and you run and you run and you never stop. You run and you run and you run. And you work and you work and you work until you drop. You run and you run and you run. You're in over your head and the pressure just don't quit. You run and you run and you run. But you can't escape the reach Let's start with a child. And where will it end? Where the perfect guest meets his fate in a scene beyond dreams. Oh, I don't think there are any Russians. There ain't no Yanks. Just corporate criminals. Playing with pigs.
Anyway, that's it. I really appreciate you taking time to watch this video. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe to ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.